What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the coaching channel. I am Coach Kevin and I help people to become the best version of themselves by transforming their physiques, updating their belief system, and helping them to achieve anything that they want in life. Today's coaching topic is going to be fitness and training related and is called "You're performing too many exercises." People have been misled that they should perform a ton of exercises for a specific muscle group in order to develop that muscle group to its fullest potential. But that is a myth that has been floating around since the 80s and 90s and has come out of bodybuilding circles. The theory behind it is that you should perform a shitload of exercises because you should truly shape the muscle from every different angle and hit it from every different angle so that it becomes perfectly shaped. But the truth is, guys, you don't need to do that because the muscle shape, the shape of your muscles is determined by your genetics. My chest, biceps, quads, my lats, even though we do the same exercises or perform the exact same workout routine and both experience muscle growth, will look vastly different from yours because my genetics are different from your genetics. And that is simply true. The only thing you can do to truly reveal the shape of your muscles is to make them bigger by performing a properly designed resistance training routine. And if you truly want to make the muscle shape visible, cut down to a low percentage of body fat, because when you are at a low percentage of body fat, that is where the magic happens and the shape of your muscles, the definition of your muscles will truly be revealed. Now, like I said, it's not efficient to perform 300 different kinds of exercises for a specific muscle group. The key takeaway of this video, guys, is that you should perform on a couple of key movements that will be responsible for 80% to even 90% of your total muscular development. And those movements, I'll call them the money movements, are big compound movements. For the back, that is the weighted chin up. If you can't do a weighted chin up yet because of not enough strength or simply not being familiar with the movement, you can do lat pull downs. For the chest, that will be the bench press or a slight incline bench press. For the shoulders, that will be the overhead press. For the lower body, that will be the squat and deadlift. Now, I just named 5 movements. And those 5 movements, if you get stronger at those 5 movements, if you get more efficient at these 5 movements, you will make your muscles grow, provided that you apply progressive overload, which means that over time you become stronger on those movements and are able to perform more work on them. And the thing is, when you become stronger at only a couple of key movements, you will become more efficient at them. When you focus on a couple of key movements, your neurological pathways will become familiar with these movements, and as a result, not only will your technique improve and will your body adapt to the movement, to the stimuli, it will, by doing the same thing over and over again and focusing on only a couple of movements and sometimes a variation of them, you will inevitably become better at them. And when you are able to become better at them, you will be able to move a higher load of weight. And as a result, that is what you need to grow muscle mass. So not only will this make building muscle more efficient, it will also save you a lot of time. And here is the caveat, here is the key, here is a great side benefit of doing this. You see, in my training routine, I follow what I preach. I only focus on a couple of key movements. 80% of my training is geared towards those movements. And because I get stronger at those movements, that translates to becoming stronger at other movements. And here's what I mean. For example, I absolutely love weighted chin-ups. Those are by far my favorite movement for the back musculature. And to me, it is the king of pulling exercises, at least for the upper body. And the thing is, when I perform weighted chin-ups, my whole upper body posterior chain is involved. I stimulate the lats through full range of motion and make them as strong as they can possibly be, because this movement doesn't have any limitations. My biceps is heavily involved in the movement and has become insanely strong just by performing this movement. My upper back and the rear delts are also heavily being stimulated because I perform a full range of motion with a full chin over bar lockout when doing the movement. And as a result, my whole posterior chain and even my core, my ab musculature, because they have to stabilize the weight, is heavily involved in the movement and gets strong and is well developed. By solely focusing on the weighted chin-up alone and becoming stronger on it, here's the ironic part, guys. When I go to a lat pull-down movement or a rowing movement, by simply having become efficient at performing weighted chin-ups, my pulling strength on those other exercises is insanely good as well, because I have become efficient at only one movement. But the caveat is that movement has to be a key money foundational movement that is responsible to translating into gaining strength on other exercises. And this is what I mean. When I would perform, for example, a lat prayer, that is a movement where I take a bar with a cable, similar to a pullover, and do like this. Or, for example, for people who don't know this movement, a dumbbell pullover is a similar movement to the lat prayer. Well, the lat prayer works the lats, but it's not really efficient at gaining strength. It's not really something that overlaps and translates to strength in other movements. However, so somebody who focuses on lat prayers alone, an isolation movement for the lats, or a dumbbell pullover, will not be very strong at weighted chin-ups, if they don't train for them, of course. However, somebody who only focuses on performing weighted chin-ups and becomes insanely strong at them, when they go to a dumbbell pullover and they go to a lat prayer, I can guarantee you that they can perform this movement with a significant amount of weight, even though they have never done the movement, because this key movement and gaining strength on the key movement translates into overall strength on other movements. Same thing is true for the bench press, for example. To me, the bench press and performing an incline bench press with a slight incline is my favorite chest movement. Well, at least in the gym, at least with a barbell or dumbbell. And that is a foundational movement. It is a key money movement, because when you perform the bench press, you are able to stimulate your pecs, your front delts, and your triceps with a big amount of weight. And your chest, when you become stronger at the bench press, when you are able to perform a higher workload, your chest has no other option than to grow. And when you become strong at the bench press, the strength gained from performing the bench can be translated into strength gains on other movements. When you solely train for the bench press, and that is your money movement, that is your key foundational movement, you've performed this exercise for a significant amount of time and you have gained significant amount of strength on that exercise. Well, when you go, for example, to a cable back fly, I can guarantee you that you will be able to perform this movement with a big amount of weight. But the person who solely trains with the cable fly and doesn't perform any other movement, well, he won't be very strong when he goes to the bench press, because that is the nature of the exercise. Cable flies are simply not a good strength exercise, and over the long term, they won't maximize your muscle growth without the presence of a big compound movement, pushing movement, a horizontal pushing movement. So instead of doing every exercise under the sun, perform a couple of key movements that will translate into gaining strength over your whole body. And that's what I say, guys. You only need about 5 to 6 exercises to develop your body to, I would say, up to 85-90% of your maximal capacity of muscle gain. And the last 10 to 15%, that cherry on the cake, will be a result of doing a couple of isolation movements and a little bit more volume in a later stage of a training career. So what are the exercises you should focus on? What are the money movements, the key movements, the foundational movements of your workout routine? Well, for the upper body, for the back musculature, for the posterior chain musculature, those will be, well, that will be the weighted chin-up. The weighted chin-up is the king of upper body pulling exercises. It trains the lats like no other movement will. Your biceps will develop like crazy. Your upper back will be heavily stimulated. And your abs, your core musculature will get a stimulus like it has never been stimulated before from any other upper body pulling movement. So that's simply the king of upper body pulling movements. If you do want to make sure that every aspect of your upper body is, well, at least in the posterior chain, is stimulated, well, in addition to weighted chin-ups, you can perform a rowing movement because it will make sure that the upper back musculature and mid-back musculature will be properly developed as well. And I think it's not a bad idea to incorporate some rowing movements for shoulder health reasons. But so we have the weighted chin-up and we have some kind of row variation. This can be a barbell row, this can be an inverted row, this can be a face pull. My personal favorite is the weighted inverted row because you don't have any limitations involving stability or fatigue concerning the core and the barbell movement. There are no swings when you perform a barbell movement. So if you want to develop your upper body posterior chain, your back musculature to its full maximal potential, focus on number 1, becoming insanely strong at weighted chin-ups, and perform, in addition to that, some kind of rowing variation for the upper back. For pushing movements, I would advise you to become insanely strong at some kind of bench press variation, and preferably the flat barbell bench press, or performing an incline bench press with about 30 to 45 degrees as an angle, because that will stimulate the chest the most. It will allow you to gain the most amount of strength, and it's simply a movement that has a lot of carryover to other movements. When you go to a weighted push-up, for example, after becoming strong at the bench press, I can guarantee you that you will be able to perform the movement with a high amount of weight. And it will stimulate it just like crazy. Your front delts will have been well developed. Your triceps will get a good boost from it. That's the best exercise, in my opinion, for the horizontal pushing movements. For the shoulders, or if you want to develop your shoulder muscles, you should focus on performing and becoming strong at the overhead press. The overhead press stimulates especially the front delt, but your medial delt and even rear delt will get some stimulation. But the most amount of shoulder development will actually come as a result of becoming stronger at your pushing movements in general and your pulling movements. So the combination of performing bench presses and chin-ups and rows will actually most of the time take care of your shoulder development. However, I think it's very important to develop all aspects and all movement patterns in the body. And that is why I think the overhead press is crucially important as well. It will make you more athletic. It will make you a better athlete in general. It's great for shoulder health, actually, contrary to what most people believe. And your traps will even get a nice stimulation as well. So yeah, there's really no downside to it. And then for the lower body, there's no other king than a squat variation. You can perform high bar squats, split squats, front squats, doesn't matter. Any kind of compound squat variation will make sure that most of your lower body musculature will be stimulated to its full maximal potential, and this movement will be responsible for 80 to 90% of your lower body development, at least for the quads, the glutes, and your core, because of the stabilization aspect of this movement, will get insanely strong as well. The only thing that the squat has trouble stimulating is the posterior chain of the lower body, and especially the hamstrings. The hamstrings are not heavily involved in the squatting movement. They get some stimulation, but you can definitely do better. And the deadlift, and especially the Romanian deadlift, is a way better option to develop the hamstrings. The difference between a squat and a deadlift variation is that the squat is a quad dominant movement and is like a leg press movement, and the deadlift is a hip hinge movement where the hips are more dominant and more responsible for the force production in this movement. And that is why you should do the combination to get a full development of your lower body as well as your body in general. So these are my recommendations. Perform the weighted chin-up, row, the bench press, the overhead press, the squat, and a deadlift variation. I recommend the Romanian deadlift. And if you truly want to maximize your physique, you can add some accessory movements. But like I said, guys, 80 to 90% of your physique development will come from becoming stronger and more efficient at the movements I've just mentioned. So become strong at them, make your training more efficient. Don't waste time. Everybody is limited on time and everybody could use some extra time. So why perform 10,000 movements when you can get 80 to 90% of the results with about 5 to 6 movements? Guys, I hope you've gotten value out of this video. If you like the video and the content that I've just shared, then please give me a thumbs up. If you want more valuable information like this and want to support the channel, please subscribe. And if you can help somebody who might benefit from hearing this information, then by all means, guys, please share the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.